Hey guys, what's going on? Sadiq. Welcome to Xperiences with Sadiq. Xperiences with Sadiq is about all things real estate. A show where communication is key, advocating for the people's bliss, and knowledge, it's inspiring. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the show. And oh yeah, don't forget to follow me on all my social media platforms. Whether you're buying or selling a home, I'm that guy. Let's go. Hey guys, what's going on? It's Sadiq. Davies, you guys know what it is. Today's Xperiences with Sadiq. And I have a great guest on today. His name is Mr. Jim Vincent. Jim, actually I'll say Mr. Vincent out of respect. How you doing today? Please introduce yourself, talk to the people, let the people know what you're about, what you do. Welcome to the platform. Go ahead, sir.
Jake, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. And you, please call me Jim. I mean, Mr. Vincent is my dad. You call me Jim.
No problem.
I'm just Jim. And I am the president of the NAACP Providence Branch. It's a national organization. It's the oldest and largest civil rights organization in America. We were founded in 1909 in Niagara Falls, New York. The Providence Branch is one of the oldest branches in the country. We were founded in 1913 in Providence, Rhode Island, when Black folks were denied entrance into the YMCA in downtown Providence. That was one of the impetuses to get us going in 1913. But I've been the president for almost 10 years. I've been a member of the branch for 17 years. Before that, I spent 9 years with the Urban League Board of Directors. I was the president of the Urban League. So altogether in Rhode Island, and I've been in Rhode Island 30 years. I'm originally from Boston, Mass. Been in Rhode Island 30 years, and of the 30 years, I spent 27 years dealing with civil rights issues. So I'm very well known in the community, and I am pleased to talk about this topic of wealth building in terms of home ownership. It's ironic that I do have a day job. I work at the Transit Authority, but before younger people are professionals, we weren't using that term maybe 15, 20 years ago, but certainly younger people that had the ability to pay rent or big rent, shifting those dollars into home ownership where they could build equity. All right. I found that it wasn't a problem in terms of them having the money, which is usually the problem. It was the fear of doing it because they had never been in a homeownership situation in their family. Their parents rented, their grandparents rented. They didn't have that tradition in the family. And there's reasons for that. There was government, policies banning Blacks from buying. It was private problems with deeds. They had restrictive covenants. You couldn't sell to Blacks. So I'm not going to put it all on our community. We were forced out of that game early on. They did not want us to own property like houses. So, to a certain extent, we had some people that got through that, but the majority was locked down up until maybe the 70s. So what I did in Rhode Island Housing was to educate people that, you could get a mortgage. You had to do some paperwork. And there was a thing called a realtor. There was a thing called a banker. There was, different actors. But I said at the end of the day, if you can get, let's say, a 30-year fixed mortgage, that amount that you're paying will not go up 30 years, unlike rent, which you have experienced increases every year. And then I said, better than that, once the value of the property goes up, that difference between what you owe the bank and the value is what they call the equity, which is how a lot of white folks send their kids to school, how they buy boats, how they do a lot of things. It's not that they have that ready cash asset. They have equity in the property and they borrow against the property. So that's why it is so important for us to start looking at home ownership, because that's the entry level where most people build wealth. Other people, 1%, they do it through the stock market and they do other things because they are very wealthy. But for the average person, somebody making, let's say, between $30,000 and $130,000, the way to build wealth easily is through home ownership. So I'm a big proponent of that. And we need to be about that as much as we can. It's not easy. Not easy because even today, even though we had the 1968 Fair Housing Act, you have people still discriminating against Black people in terms of banks, in terms of realtors. I know early in my career, when I was in my 20s, there was a bank in Boston that would have a different color paper for Black applicants than white applicants, so they would know which ones were the Black applicants.
Interesting.
They would also write Deloric on certain other applications of the same color. And I would say, well, what does Deloric mean? They said, Jim, put the paper in a mirror. When I did, it said colored on the top.
Oh, man.
They were doing that in the 70s. Now, we're not talking about my parents. I'm talking about me. When I was a young professional in the 70s, there was still racism. There was still discrimination. They were violating the Fair Housing Act big time. And we called them on that. And one by one, we were able to get people to understand that this is against the law and we'll shut it down, okay, if you persist. That was 40 years ago. Today, it's a lot better. Not perfect. Still people playing games, realtors steering people just to black areas when people want to live in certain areas that they feel they feel comfortable in, where they feel the school system or maybe the values might be a little higher. Realtors steering people into other areas. So we still got some of that.
So you're saying even though the Fair Housing Act of 1968, which protected certain characteristics, all right, of people, whether sex, origin, color, sex, national origin, color, race, whatever the case may be, you're saying even today, years later, when Lyndon B. Johnson put that Fair Housing Act of 1968 into law, you still feel like today that African Americans or people of color are still dealing with some type of racism, even regardless of the 1968 regulation law.
Of course, it's not as bad as it was in 1968, but to say that it was eradicated because of that law, that would not be truthful, because there's a Human Rights Commission in Rhode Island, and there's an MCAD, Mass Commission Against Discrimination, in Boston, and those folks will tell you that they have cases involving rental and mortgages and home ownership where there's discrimination cases that they take on a daily basis. All right. Some cases, what they do, they have testers. They send a black person and a white person to a certain bank, or they'll send them to a certain rental agent, and to see if the response from that bank or rental agent is the same. In some cases, in rental, let's just say for a minute, somebody will say, well, that apartment is taken, okay, to the black person. Then they'll send, the Human Rights Commission send a white person, and then that rental agent said, oh, glad to see you. Yeah, let me bring you upstairs so you can take a look at it. 1 hour later, okay? So that has been a mechanism to bust people by having black and white partners, let's say, work together, going to the same person to see if the attitude is the same, when you suspect that it could be a problem. So it's being fought. It's not as bad as it was in 1968. Trust me, I remember 1968. However, I was in high school, but however, okay, high school. I think I was
you
like
still
a
look
junior.
like you're in high school.
Yeah, well, that's what the ladies say. The guys don't say that. I would think that our sisters have more wisdom than the brothers, especially in that case. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
So yeah, but so back then in the 60s, things were really bad, as you can imagine. I was there. I was a teenager. I was feeling anger, but there was laws like the 68 Fair Housing Act, which came after the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So there was a shift in the 60s that had to happen that made things better than it had existed going back to, since we've been here in 1619. So I would say that homeownership is something that is big. People need to do that. Anybody that's paying rent today pretty much can get a mortgage, okay? You have to have credit, but you don't have to have perfect credit. There are programs for people that have what they call slow credit, and even people with no credit, there are programs out there for even them to establish enough credit to buy their first home. I have seen people that nobody would believe could buy a home, but buy a home, okay? And they're better off because, like I said, if you get a fixed mortgage, and you can get a variable, but if you can get a fixed mortgage, that payment stays the same for 15 to 30 years. So you're actually, really making out, because the person that's in that rental, let's say 10 years later, probably paying double for the same thing or less than that person with the mortgage. Plus, that person paying rental doesn't have any equity. Once they leave, that's it. There's no money coming with them.
So you know what's crazy? It seems like you're talking about the educational aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about how important it is for African American, colored folks, anybody who has a lack of education to actually build education to understand the intricacies of being able to become a homeowner. Because I feel like, because I've done some research and I spoke to a bunch of people, and it seems like education about home ownership, about how the mortgage aspect worked, and so forth and so forth, was something that was missing. So if you could just elaborate and stress to African American, people of color, just anybody in general, about the importance of education. That's definitely something that I would like to hear from you.
It is very important because it's so vital in terms of the everyday American life. You know, the whole thing about having predictable rent or mortgage payments, which makes the family budgeting much easier when you know what you got going for yourself. Also, that equity is so important in terms of doing things. For example, you know, I had that fear. You know, I always had pretty good positions. You know, I have a graduate degree. But I had that fear because my parents didn't own a home. We lived in the inner city of Boston, the poorest neighborhood. It was actually the red light district. So I definitely didn't know anything about no home ownership. So I bought the house I'm in right now. I was like 46 years old. I mean, this is my first house. I had that fear, and I'm educated. So it had nothing to do with the degrees. It was the fear of the unknown. So you could have a PhD and not know what to do. So don't feel like, you know, it's you. It isn't. It's a fear of the unknown. You know, it had nothing to do with education, nothing to do with your background, your ethnicity. If you don't have that familiarity based on really your family ties, then you're going to have that reluctance because it seems daunting. And you need people like me, but not just me, anybody that owns a home knows the process. We need to start educating each other because there are a lot of people, they're not experts on nothing, but they're homeowners. They went through it. Why can't they share that information as a priority when it comes to giving knowledge to other people? That should be up in the top 3. I mean, there's a lot of important things that we should be doing in terms of intergenerational discussions and mentoring and bringing down to the people that don't know. But I can't think of too many things as important as teaching people about home ownership because it has such value for your family, you know? So, I mean, that's why I'm in the field that I'm in. I went and received a master's in city planning, and I got involved in business development and housing, and because I realized how important that was for my community. So coming out of the 60s, I wanted to give back in a tangible way, but I also wanted to make money. I didn't want to be a minister or a priest. So I said, this is what I'm going to do. And it's all about giving knowledge. That's what I've been doing for the last 45 years, educating people. And I'm only one person. We need thousands of people because that reach is necessary. We can't, one person can, I've reached hundreds, but we need people that can reach tens of thousands. That means we need an army of people, and anybody that owns their own home is qualified to do what I'm saying to do.
You know what's crazy? When I came into this industry, my whole notion was just to help people. Doesn't matter the color, doesn't matter their origin. With me, it was just all about how can I actually provide a service to help everyone. And because I really truly believe, because me personally, when I bought my current home down currently and right now a few years ago, and it goes back to the fear of the unknown. It wasn't more so the educational aspect of it, because to be educated, you have so much things online, right? And you could actually learn from all of that as well. And at the time, the person who helped me buy my home was my real estate agent, a good friend of mine. And he actually walked me through the process, made sure I understood it and everything like that. And then I also spoke to a loan officer who actually, in detailed format, Sadiq, and they weren't even black, they were white. And they actually broke it down. They made it so simplified for me that I was like, this is basically what I needed to understand. But what I was more worried about, it goes back to the fear of unknown, which basically I didn't know what to expect as a homeowner, you know. And I think that's what really kind of worried me. But because now since I'm in this industry, I really pride myself, and I really want to focus on educating the people in the community that listen. You can rent all you want, But imagine taking the money that you utilize into rent. Imagine taking that and applying it to something that you actually physically own, something that's yours, something that you can build equity in, something that you can actually maybe leave behind for your kids. Because generational wealth is something that, as African Americans, people of color, I really feel like that's something that we're missing. I could be. Go ahead.
Right. No, I was going to say, I'm not going to say that none of us are doing it, because, there is a lot of Black home ownership going on in the country. I mean, it has been going on for maybe 100 years. I mean, not all of us are not informed, because, I know people that are, have great grandparents that own their own homes, that people are like my friends. So, but that's few and far between. So it's not like we've never known. It's just that not enough of us have known. And also, you have to have a certain income. I mean, you can't have no income or very low income, because the numbers might not work in today's marketplace, because values are so high. You have to also factor in insurance and taxes and water bill now, because now it's yours. So there's no landlord to pay your water bill. That's a minor charge. So you got to have, I know for me, about 1/3 of my monthly cost, because I escrow, is unrelated mortgage costs. It's insurance, it's taxes, those kinds of things. So you got to have that too. Now, the thing that's great about it, though, is that when you do your taxes, that stuff is deductible. Yep. So really, what you're putting out is not the true cost. So if I put out $400, actually, I might get $300 of that back after I file my taxes. So it's really $100. But still, you got to have something. Exactly. It doesn't exclude you to have low income, but it makes it that much harder. So I'm not going to say no matter what your income is, if you're renting, you can buy a house. That sounds good, but it's not entirely.
It's not reality. It's not
reality. You'd be surprised. We have people making, $30,000, whatever that is an hour, buying homes. Now, that might have been 10 years ago when the values were a little bit lower, but I know that people thought that was very low. How could you buy a house that low? And we made it happen at Rhode Island House. And I was the lead person for that agency doing that for 14 years. And my job was to go into our communities in Providence, in Woonsocket, in Newport, in East Providence, and making sure that we knew. So I have helped hundreds of Black families buy their first home
That's amazing. That's amazing. So it's fair enough to say that it's not really about race or anything like that, because obviously it seems like now Black people are more dominant now, in regards to how they should go, in regards to being able to want something, getting what they want versus what used to be years ago. It seems like, I think what seems like is going on based on this discussion is we basically pretty much have to have our I's dotted and our T's crossed to be able to put ourselves in a better position and obviously move on forward with our lives. It seems like that's where that's going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to ever point the finger at our people for not knowing something, because we've been abused and used, whatever. But I will say this: for those of us who have a little bit of knowledge, we need to step up our game now, especially now, and to try to figure out ways of, spreading the message. You're doing an excellent job. You got this platform, so that's a way to do it. I know that I'm going to be on a similar platform Thursday night, and then I'm going to be on a Facebook Live with the Lieutenant Governor. So that's happening. And then there's the traditional way. I've had a television talk show for 20 years on CW. So I found that 20 years ago, having a TV show on CW was important. Just before you had Facebook and Zoom, you had none of that.
Yeah.
So I was doing the best I could with what I had. And so I still have the TV show. My studio is closed. So, no matter which way you go, do something. Every way is helpful. So, and I think now we have an opportunity, because with the technology, it's much easier to reach more people. We didn't have those smartphones and these platforms even 10 years ago. So now, if we do it right, we can blow up and really educate masses, because people have a smartphone. If they know how to get to you, they're going to get to you. And if you got the right knowledge, they're going to be better off now than they ever was, because they didn't have that vehicle. They'd have to know me. They'd have to go to a meeting. They'd have to, go to a seminar. You don't have to do that now. Now, in the convenience of your own home, you can get that same knowledge that I was doing, having to go to different schools, different town halls. That's almost like pedestrian today. And that was 10 years ago. But that was what we had to do to get our people the knowledge. So we have an opportunity to really expand it. You don't have to be a certified home ownership expert to give knowledge. You just had to have gone through the process yourself. I mean, it's not like you forgot what you had to do. You just told reach one, teach one. And they say, look, this is what you got to do with the bank. They're going to want this, this, and this. And this is what you got to do with it. You have to get an inspection, but that's okay. You just call the guy and they come, and that's how that fits into the thing. And then they trust you, and they're relieved because, no worries. They know you're going to help them out. And that's what it happens. I mean, I had a person I worked with at Rhode Island Housing said, Jim, you're renting and working at Rhode Island Housing. We got to get you into a home. I said, I want to, but I don't know what to do. She said, follow me. I'll show you. And within that next 6 months, I was in this house because she said, we can't have people working, talking about this stuff, but they don't own their own home. That's kind of like a contradiction.
That's true. That's true.
You yourself, with all your degrees, still didn't have a home because you didn't have that experience in your family. You had that fear. Yeah. So you kept on putting it off, even though you had the income to afford a lot of homes. The reason why it wasn't happening was fear, because you had the money. So, you just didn't know what to do. So there's a lot of people in that boat. And I saw a lot of people in their 20s, 20 years ago, that were paying big rent. And I was like, wow, how come you don't buy it? I said, well, how do you do it? That was the only reason. See, usually the problem is you don't have the money. That's the problem. But these were people that had the money and was giving it to somebody else, paying their mortgage, not their own mortgage.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy. So I said, I'm going to change that. And this is before I was with the NAACP. And then as part of the NAACP, I was the chair of the housing committee. So the president used me that way. And unfortunately, we don't have a housing committee now. Now I'm the president. I don't even have a housing committee. I don't have anybody to do it because it's all volunteer organization. Okay, I give back because I got an opportunity after the riots of '68, Martin Luther King, to go to a couple of the best schools in the country. That never would have happened being a poor kid from the inner city or the ghetto if that didn't happen, civil rights movement. So I feel strong about giving back because I felt that I never would have got a chance unless the people that were protesting didn't do what they did. I wouldn't have got my shot. And,
interesting.
That's how I feel.
Nice. Let me ask you this, right? With everything that's going on right now, right? Especially like the outrage that's coming from African Americans. This is the fruit from knowledge from you that I wanted to be able to just quickly wrap up before we even get off this. How should African Americans and people of color, due to systematic oppression, how can they uplift themselves and rise from the ashes of everything that's going on? Go ahead, share some knowledge.
I think the best way is to continue protesting because protesting has its place. Peaceful protest is important. There are results coming out of just the peaceful protest alone. But the other thing is understanding the political system. And I'm not talking about just the presidency. I'm talking about the city council, the school committee person, the state rep, the state senator. Understand that your voice can be heard. What you have to do is understand that you have to go to hearings. You have to pressure your representative to do things. If the average representative gets 5 calls or letters, it's a crisis in their district. So we need to teach people that I can get 4 more people to call my state rep, and all of a sudden I can become top priority in their life. Who knows that? That's what's happening across the country. They will get your attention. They don't want to get voted out, so they're going to do what you want them to do or else. So, and I'm talking about the city council, school committee. It can be replicated in any level. State senator, congressperson. You got to know how to work what makes them jump. Okay, 2 things make them jump. Money. If you can give them a check, they're going to pay attention to you. Or you organizing numbers of people to vote, which you don't have to have money to do that. Those are the 2 things that they respond to. Money. Interesting. If I give them a check for $1,000, they're going to definitely take my call. Or if they know control 100 votes, they're going to take my call. All right. So we got to understand that game, and then we leverage numbers of people. We put them in. You run. I get you in. We need more people of color to be in those offices. But we also have to understand that even though they might be white, if they are representing us, then we can organize people. And some people could be white too that are left out, left behind. And we tell them what we want. See, that's how it changes. And we vote. We make sure that we don't say we can't make a change. Why should I even show up? I have a good friend that lost a state reps race by 1 vote in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. His family that didn't vote said, "Oh, we thought you was going to run away with it." Wow. Can you imagine how they felt?
Every vote counts.
Can you imagine how the family felt when he came back? And to the ones that didn't vote because they thought he was going to run away with it. And when he came back and said, "Guess what? I lost by 1 vote." How they felt? And they didn't vote because they said, "Well, I don't need to vote. He done got this." Nobody ever got nothing. No matter how much you think that person's going to win, you got to vote anyway because you can't take chances on what the results are because nobody has a crystal ball. So vote, and vote some more. And that's and when I was in my 20s, I was very much into getting people registered to vote and voting because I worked at City Hall. I worked for the mayor, and I knew that the more I could organize people, the more clout I would have to make sure that he did what we needed him to do.
Yeah.
So I go back, that was in the 70s. So I've been blessed to have the interest and have the desire to help my people. I've been blessed to be able to do this for 45 years. I see it as a privilege more than anything else. People say, "Jimmy, you don't get paid to do all that stuff." I don't need to get paid. The fact that the civil rights movement, when I was in high school, and Martin Luther King helped me go to schools and have opportunities that nobody in my neighborhood ever had, is enough to move me from now to the day I die.
Nice. That's what I like to hear, Mr. Vincent. Thank you very much for sharing that knowledge, that fruit of knowledge, and abundance of knowledge. Let me ask you this: for people to reach out to you in case they have any questions whatsoever, how can they reach out to you, Mr. Vincent? Jim.
Yeah, my father's Mr. Vincent. No, the best way is email jvincent 577 at gmail.com. jvincent577@gmail.com. Some people know me through Facebook, so you probably could do it through Messenger. My phone number is 401-261-0174. Shoot me a text. I always respond within 24 hours, and it would be good to go, man. I'm happy to be here to serve.
Thank you very much. You guys hear from the man, Mr. Jim Vincent himself. There's Sadiq Davies. Welcome to Experiences with Sadiq, where communication is key, advocate for the people's bliss, and knowledge is inspiring. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later. Enjoy.